Jake Morrison sat in the captain's chair of his mining ship, the Iron Hawk, watching the stars drift past the main window. His daughter Emma sat beside him, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail as she studied the navigation chart spread across the control panel. She was 15 years old and already knew more about spaceship systems than most adults. "Dad, look at this," Emma said, pointing at a section of the star map. "If we change course by just 3 degrees, we can save 2 hours of travel time and use less fuel." Jake smiled and looked at where she was pointing. His daughter was right as usual. She had her mother's sharp mind for numbers and planning. Maria would have been proud to see how smart Emma had become. "Good catch," Jake said, reaching over to adjust their course. "Your mom always said you were going to be a better navigator than both of us combined." Emma grinned. It had been 3 years since Maria died in that mining accident, but Jake still talked about her often. Emma liked hearing the stories. It made her feel like her mother was still with them somehow. The Iron Hawk was not a big ship, but it was home. Jake had bought it after leaving the military, and he used it to haul supplies and equipment to the frontier colonies. The work was dangerous, but it paid well, and it let him keep Emma close instead of leaving her at some school back on Earth. "We should reach the research station in about 6 hours, Emma said, checking the computer. "Dr. Carter is probably getting tired of waiting for those new excavation tools." Jake nodded. Dr. Helen Carter had been stuck on Kepler 442b for 3 months, studying some old ruins she had found. She needed better equipment to dig deeper, and Jake was the only transport captain willing to fly supplies that far into the outer rim. Suddenly, the ship's communication system started beeping. Jake pressed a button and a woman's voice filled the bridge. "This is Dr. Carter at Research Station Alpha. Is anyone out there? I need immediate assistance. Please respond." Jake and Emma looked at each other. Dr. Carter sounded scared, which was not like her at all. Jake had met her several times, and she was always calm and professional. "Dr. Carter, this is Captain Morrison on the Iron Hawk. We are about 6 hours away from your location. What is your emergency?" There was a long pause before Dr. Carter answered. "Captain Morrison, thank God, listen to me carefully. There are alien ships in this system. They attacked the station 2 hours ago. Most of my team is dead. I am hiding in the lower levels, but I do not think they are gone yet." Jake felt his stomach drop. Alien raiders were the worst nightmare for anyone working in the Outer Rim. They came without warning, took whatever they wanted, and left nothing but destruction behind. "Dr. Carter, can you identify the ships?" "Do you know what species they are?" "I think they are Vakari," Dr. Carter said, her voice shaking. "Big reptilian creatures with advanced weapons. They were looking for something specific, not just looting. They kept asking about humans." Emma grabbed Jake's arm. She had heard stories about the Vakari raiders. They were slave traders who captured people from different planets and sold them at secret markets across the galaxy. Humans were new to the galactic community, which made them valuable to collectors and buyers. "Dr. Carter, stay hidden. We are coming to get you," Jake said. "Can you get to the landing pad?" "I will try, but Captain, you need to be careful. I saw at least 3 Vakari ships. They have weapons that can disable any ship in seconds." Jake started pushing buttons on the control panel, making the Iron Hawk go faster. "Emma, go to the weapon storage and get the rifles ready. And put on your emergency suit." Emma did not argue. She had been on dangerous trips before, and she knew how to follow orders when things got serious. She ran to the back of the ship and started preparing their equipment. As they got closer to Kepler 442b, Jake tried to contact Dr. Carter again, but there was no answer. The research station appeared on their sensors, but it looked dark and empty. No lights, no power readings, no signs of life. "Dad, I am getting some strange readings," Emma said from the sensor station. "There are definitely ships out there, but they are hiding behind the planet's moon," Jake cursed under his breath. It was a trap. The Vakari were waiting for rescue ships to arrive, and now he and Emma were flying right into their hands. "Emma, get ready to jump to hyperspace if I give the order," Jake said, his hands moving over the weapon controls. "And send a distress signal to Captain Barnes. Tell her where we are." Before Emma could respond, 3 large ships appeared from behind. The moon, they were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The hulls were dark green with strange markings, and they moved with deadly grace through space. "This is War Commander Thex of the Verkari fleet," a deep, rough voice said over the communication system. "Human vessel, power down your engines, and prepare to be boarded. Do not resist, or you will be destroyed." Jake looked at Emma, who was staring at the alien ships with wide eyes. He had 2 choices: run and leave Dr. Carter behind, or fight and probably get them all killed. "Emma, I need you to hide in the emergency pod and stay quiet no matter what happens," Jake said. "No way, Dad, I am not leaving you. This is not a discussion. Go, now." Before Emma could argue, the Verkari ships opened fire. Blue energy beams hit the Iron Hawk, and all the lights went out. The ship's engines died, and they started drifting helplessly through space. Jake tried to restart the engines, but the controls were dead. The Verkari had some kind of weapon that could shut down electronic systems without destroying the ship. They wanted to capture it, not destroy it. "Emma, where are you?" Jake called out in the darkness. "I am here, Dad," Emma said from somewhere behind him. "The emergency systems are still working, but everything else is dead." Jake heard a loud noise from the ship's hull. The Verkari were cutting through the airlock door. He grabbed his rifle and moved toward the sound, but he knew it was hopeless. They were outnumbered and outgunned. The airlock door exploded inward, and 3 figures in dark armor stepped through the smoke. They were tall, with green scaly skin and yellow eyes that glowed in the darkness. Their weapons looked like they could cut through steel. "Surrender, human," the leader said in accented English. "We do not wish to kill you, but we will if necessary." Jake raised his rifle, but before he could fire, one of the aliens shot him with some kind of stun weapon. He fell to the floor, unable to move but still conscious. "Dad!" Emma screamed, running toward him. The alien leader grabbed Emma with one large hand and lifted her off the ground. She fought and kicked, but the creature was too strong. "Excellent," the alien said, looking at Emma with those terrible yellow eyes, a young human female. "She will bring a good price at the markets." Jake tried to speak, tried to move, but his body would not obey him. He could only watch as the aliens carried his daughter away. "Do not worry, human," the leader said before. "Leaving. Your daughter will be well cared for. The buyers prefer their merchandise undamaged." The aliens left Jake alone on his dead ship, floating in the darkness of space. As feeling slowly returned to his body, he heard a small beeping sound from Emma's workstation. She had hidden a communicator under the control panel, and it was still working. Through the static, he heard Emma's voice, weak but clear. "Dad, if you can hear this, I am okay. The coordinates are 847.3 by 221.7 by 998.1. I love you." Then the signal went dead, and Jake was alone with his rage and desperation. His daughter was gone, taken by alien slavers to some unknown fate. But she had given him coordinates, and that meant hope. Jake Morrison had been a soldier before he became a miner. He knew how to fight, and he knew how to survive. The Verkari had made a terrible mistake when they took his daughter. He was going to get her back, no matter what it cost. Jake Morrison spent 3 days fixing his ship with nothing but spare parts and pure determination. The Verkari weapons had damaged most of his electronic systems, but they had not completely destroyed them. He worked 18 hours a day, stopping only when his hands shook too much to hold the tools. Dr. Helen Carter helped him as much as she could. She had managed to reach the Iron Hawk after the aliens left, using the underground tunnels that connected the research station to the landing pad. She was the only survivor from her team of 12 scientists. "I am sorry about Emma," Dr. Carter said as she handed Jake another circuit board. "Those coordinates she gave you, do you know what they mean?" Jake wiped sweat from his forehead and looked at the numbers Emma had transmitted. "They point to a system that is not on any official star chart. It is way out in the forbidden zones, where the government tells ships not to go, Why would the Vakari take her there? Dr. Carter asked. Jake's hands tightened on his wrench. Because that is where they do business. Slave markets, illegal weapon sales, things that civilized people do not want to see. Dr. Carter was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Jake, I need to tell you something. The ruins I have been studying here, they are not from any known civilization. The technology is far more advanced than anything we have seen before. What does that have to do with getting my daughter back? Maybe everything, Dr. Carter said. I have been translating some of the writing on the walls. They mention something called the Precursors, an ancient race that left artifacts all over the galaxy. And Jake, the coordinates Emma gave you, they match a location mentioned in the ruins. Jake stopped working and looked at her. What are you saying? I think Emma did not just give you random coordinates. I think she somehow knew about this place. The ruins here talk about a lost world where the precursors hid their most powerful technology. Jake had no time for ancient mysteries. His daughter was in the hands of alien slavers, and every minute he wasted meant she was getting further away. But Dr. Carter was the only person who could help him, and she seemed to think this was important. Fine, Jake said. You can come with me, but we are going to get Emma first, and then you can play archaeologist. Dr. Carter packed her research notes and the few supplies she had left. As they prepared to leave, she showed Jake some pictures she had taken in the ruins. The walls were covered with strange symbols and images of creatures that looked almost human but taller and more elegant. Look at this, Dr. Carter said, pointing to one image. This shows the precursors giving something to a group of primitive humans. It is like they were teaching our ancestors about advanced technology. Jake was not interested in ancient history, but he looked at the picture anyway. The human figures did look familiar, and there was something about the way they were drawn that made him think of Emma and her natural talent with machines. As the Iron Hawk limped away from Kepler 442b, Jake contacted his old friend Lisa Barnes on a secure channel. Lisa commanded a small fleet of independent traders who worked the Outer Rim territories. If anyone knew about Vakari movements, it would be her. Jake, I heard about the attack on the research station, Lisa said when her face appeared on the communication screen. Are you and Emma okay? Jake's throat tightened. They took her, Lisa. The Vakari took my daughter. Lisa's expression became hard and angry. She had met Emma several times and liked the smart, curious girl. Those bastards. Jake, I will help you any way I can, but you need to know what you are getting into. The coordinates you sent me, they point to a system called the Graveyard. Why do they call it that? Because ships go in, but they do not come out. The government has that whole area marked as off-limits. They claim it is because of dangerous radiation or unstable space, but most people think there is something else out there. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of something else? Nobody knows for sure. Some traders talk about ghost ships, others say there are hidden bases where the crime families do their worst business. All I know is that my people avoid that area completely. Dr. Carter leaned forward. Lisa, have you ever heard of the precursors? Lisa looked confused. You mean the old stories? Some people think there was an ancient race that built things all over the galaxy before they disappeared. Why? Because I think the graveyard system might be one of their sites, Dr. Carter said. And I think that is why the Vakari took Emma. There. Jake did not care about ancient aliens or mysterious disappearances. All he cared about was his daughter. Lisa, can you give me any support? Weapons? Ships? Anything? Lisa shook her head. I'm sorry, Jake. I have 3 small cargo ships and maybe 20 crew members. The Vakari travel in war fleets with hundreds of fighters. I cannot help you fight them, but I can give you information. What kind of information? I have been tracking Vakari movements for months. They have been kidnapping people from all over the galaxy, not just humans. But lately they have been focusing on species that show high intelligence or unusual abilities. They are looking for something specific. Jake thought about Emma and her talent with technology. Even as a small child, she could fix machines that trained engineers could not figure out. Maybe that was why the Vakari had taken her. There is something else, Lisa continued. My sources tell me that the Vakari are planning something big. They have been gathering slaves from dozens of worlds, and they are all being taken to the same place. Somewhere in the graveyard system. After ending the communication with Lisa, Jake pushed the Iron Hawk harder than he had ever pushed it before. The damaged engines complained, but they kept working. Dr. Carter spent her time studying the ancient texts she had brought from the research station. Jake, you need to see this, Dr. Carter said after several hours of reading. I found something important. She showed him a translation of one of the precursor texts. It talked about a species called the Chosen Ones, who would inherit the precursor's technology when the time was right. The description of the Chosen Ones matched humans perfectly. This is impossible, Jake said. You are saying that some ancient aliens left their technology for humans to find? I am saying that maybe humans are not as new to the galaxy as we think, Dr. Carter replied. Maybe we have been here before, a long time ago. Jake was about to argue when the ship's sensors detected something ahead. They were approaching the edge of the graveyard system, and space itself looked different here. The stars seemed dimmer, and there was a strange energy reading that made the ship's instruments act strangely. What is that? Jake asked, pointing at the sensor display. Dr. Carter looked at the readings and her eyes went wide. It is some kind of barrier, an artificial energy field surrounding the entire system. As they got closer, Jake could see that. Space ahead of them was filled with a swirling cloud of dust and debris. But there was something else too. Ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all floating dead in space. The graveyard, Jake whispered. Now I understand why they call it that. Some of the ships looked recent, but others were clearly very old. Different designs from different species and different time periods. It was like every ship that had ever entered this system had been stopped and left to drift. Jake, look at this, Dr. Carter said, pointing to one section of the ship display. Those ships over there, they are not like anything I have ever seen. The design is completely alien, but somehow familiar. Jake looked where she was pointing and saw a group of ships that were sleek and beautiful, made from some kind of white metal that seemed to glow with its own light. They were definitely not human ships, but there was something about them that made him think of Emma's drawings. She had always sketched spaceships that looked somehow similar to these. Precursor ships, Dr. Carter said with awe in her voice. They are real. Jake, we have found the most important archaeological discovery in human history. Jake did not care about archaeological discoveries, but as he looked at the ancient ships, he felt something strange. A pull, like they were calling to him somehow. It was the same feeling he got when he watched Emma work with machines, like there was some connection he could not understand. We need to get through this barrier, Jake said, focusing on his mission. Emma is somewhere in there, and I'm going to find her. Dr. Carter nodded, but she kept looking at the precursor ships. Jake, what if Emma being taken here is not just bad luck? What if there is a reason the Vakari brought her to this specific place? Jake thought about his daughter's talent with technology, about the strange ships floating in space, and about the ancient texts that talked about chosen ones. Maybe Dr. Carter was right. Maybe Emma had not been taken by accident, but that did not change anything. Whatever was waiting for them in the graveyard system, whatever ancient secrets lay hidden there, Jake was going to face it all to get his daughter back. The Iron Hawk moved slowly into the swirling dust cloud, passing the dead ships like ghosts in the darkness. Somewhere ahead, Emma was waiting for rescue, and Jake would not let her down. The Iron Hawk moved slowly through the field of dead ships, its damaged engines struggling against the strange energy that filled the graveyard system. Jake kept his hands steady on the controls, but he could feel the ship fighting him with every movement. The energy field is getting stronger, Dr. Carter said, watching the instrument readings. It is like something is trying to pull us toward the center of the system. Jake looked through the main window at the ancient ships floating around them. Some were so old that plant life had grown over their hulls. Others looked like they had been attacked with holes burned through their armor. All of them were empty and silent. There, Dr. Carter said suddenly, pointing ahead. Do you see that? Jake looked where she was pointing and saw something that made his breath catch. Hidden behind the swirling dust and debris was a planet. But this was not like any planet he had ever seen. It glowed with a soft blue light, and strange crystalline structures rose from its surface like mountains made of glass. That is not natural, Jake said. Someone built those structures. The precursors, Dr. Carter whispered. This has to be one of their worlds. As they got closer to the planet, Jake realized that the energy field was not trying to destroy ships. It was protecting them. The dead vessels floating in space were not wrecked by weapons or accidents. They had simply been turned off, like someone had flipped a switch and stopped their engines. It is a defense system, Jake said. Something that stops any ship from reaching the planet. But we are still moving, Dr. Carter pointed out. Why? Is it not stopping us? Jake did not know the answer, but he had a strange feeling that the planet wanted them to land. The pull he had felt when looking at the precursor ships was getting stronger. Like a voice calling to him from the surface below, the Iron Hawk descended through the planet's atmosphere, and Jake was surprised to find that the air was perfect for human life. Not only could they breathe it, but it felt cleaner and fresher than the recycled air on most space stations. Jake, look at this, Dr. Carter said, checking the atmospheric readings. The oxygen levels, the temperature, the pressure, everything is exactly right for humans. This is impossible. Jake landed the ship near the largest crystalline structure, which rose from the ground like a cathedral made of light. As soon as they stepped outside, he felt something he had never experienced before. The air itself seemed to hum with energy, and the ground beneath his feet felt alive. This place is incredible, Dr. Carter said, looking around with wonder. It is like the entire planet is one giant machine. They walked toward the crystal structure, and Jake noticed that their footsteps seemed to make the ground glow with each step. The building ahead of them was massive, easily the size of a small city, and it pulsed with the same blue light that surrounded the planet. There, Dr. Carter said, pointing to an opening in the crystal wall. That looks like a doorway. As they approached the entrance, it opened silently, revealing a corridor that stretched into the distance. The walls were covered with the same symbols that Dr. Carter had found in the ruins on Kepler 442b, but these were glowing and moving like living writing. The symbols are active, Dr. Carter said, taking pictures with her scanner. They are trying to communicate with us. Jake did not care about alien writing. He was thinking about Emma, wondering if she was somewhere on this strange planet. But as they walked deeper into the structure, he began to feel that strange pull again. Stronger than before, the corridor led them to a vast chamber that took Jake's breath away. The room was so large that he could not see the far walls, and the ceiling disappeared into darkness above. But what filled the space was even more amazing. Floating in the air were thousands of holographic displays, each one showing different scenes from across the galaxy. Jake could see star systems, alien civilizations, and historical events playing out like movies in the air around them. It is a record of everything, Dr. Carter said, her voice filled with awe. The entire history of the galaxy all stored in this one place. Jake watched one of the displays and saw creatures that looked almost human, but taller and more elegant than any person he had ever seen. They were working with advanced technology, building ships that looked like the ones they had seen in the ship graveyard outside. The precursors, Dr. Carter said, pointing to the same display. This is what they looked like. But Jake was looking at a different hologram, one that showed Earth as it had been thousands of years ago. Primitive humans were living in caves and hunting with simple tools. But in the display, some of the tall, elegant precursors were there, too, teaching the humans about fire, agriculture, and basic technology. They were on Earth, Jake said. They helped our ancestors. Not just helped, Dr. Carter said, studying another display. Look at this. She showed him a hologram that displayed DNA sequences, genetic codes that looked like blueprints for life itself. Jake could not understand the science, but he could see that human DNA was connected to the precursor genetic patterns. We are related to them, Dr. Carter said. Humans and precursors share the same basic genetic structure. We are not just allies, we are family. Before Jake could respond, a new voice filled the chamber. It was deep and calm, speaking in perfect English. Welcome, children of Earth, we have been waiting for you. A figure appeared in the center of the room, a hologram of a tall man with kind eyes and silver hair. He wore simple robes and had the same elegant features as the other precursors they had seen. Who are you? Jake asked, his hand moving toward his weapon. I am Keeper Matthias, the hologram said. I am the guardian of this archive, left here to guide those who would inherit. Our legacy. Inherit your legacy? Dr. Carter asked. What do you mean? Keeper Matthias smiled. The precursors were not aliens, Dr. Carter. We were humans. Humans from your far future who discovered the secret of traveling through time. Jake felt his mind reel. Time travel was impossible, something from science fiction stories. But as he looked around at the incredible technology surrounding them, he began to believe that maybe impossible things were possible here. We came back to your time period to seed the galaxy with knowledge and technology, Keeper Matthias continued. We knew that future generations would need these tools to survive the challenges ahead. What challenges? Jake asked. Species-like. The Verkari, the Keeper said. Civilizations that conquer and enslave others. The galaxy is full of such threats, and humanity needed to be prepared to face them. Dr. Carter was frantically taking notes. But why did you disappear? Where did all the precursors go? We returned to our own time to avoid creating paradoxes, Keeper Matthias explained. But we left our technology behind, hidden in places like this, waiting for the right moment to be discovered. Jake was getting impatient. This is all very interesting, but I need to find my daughter. The Verkari took her, and I think they brought her to this system. Keeper Matthias nodded. Emma Morrison, age 15, daughter of Captain Jake Morrison? Yes, we know of her. She is special, Jake. She carries the genetic markers that allow her to interface with our technology. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means she is one of the chosen ones mentioned in our prophecies. A human who can use precursor technology without training or preparation. Such individuals are very rare, which is why the Verkari sought her. Out, Jake felt his heart racing. Where is she? Is she safe? She is being held on a space station called Terminus, 3 days' travel from here. The Verkari plan to sell her to the highest bidder at their grand auction. But Jake, you cannot rescue her with conventional weapons. The Verkari have technology that is far superior to anything humans currently possess. Then what am I supposed to do? Jake asked desperately. Keeper Matthias turned and gestured toward a section of the chamber that Jake had not noticed before. The wall slid away, revealing a room filled with gleaming armor and weapons. You must become what you were always meant to be, the Keeper said. A guardian of the galaxy. Jake walked toward the armor display, and as he got closer he felt that strange pull again, stronger than ever. One set of armor seemed to be calling to him specifically. It was sleek and powerful, made from the same white metal as the precursor. Ships, the Guardian armor, Keeper Matthias said. It will enhance your strength, speed, and reflexes. More importantly, it will connect you to the precursor knowledge network. You will have access to information and abilities that no human has possessed for thousands of years. Jake reached out and touched the armor. The moment his fingers made contact, he felt a surge of energy run through his body. Knowledge flooded his mind, information about the galaxy, about technology, about the true scope of the Verkari threat. But there is a price, Keeper Matthias warned. Using the armor will awaken the dormant genetic potential in humans across the galaxy. Your species will never be the same. Jake thought about Emma, trapped and alone on an alien station, probably scared and wondering if he would ever find her. He thought about all the other humans who had been taken by the Verkari, all the people who needed someone to stand up to the slavers and criminals. I do not care about the price, Jake said. I just want my daughter back. Then step forward. Jake Morrison, Keeper Matthias said, and become humanity's champion. Jake stepped into the armor and felt it wrap around him like a second. Jake felt the guardian armor flow around his body like liquid metal before hardening into perfect protection. The moment it sealed completely, his mind exploded with new knowledge. He could suddenly understand technology that had seemed impossible minutes before. More than that, he could feel something awakening in humans across the galaxy. What is happening to me? Jake asked, looking at his hands through the armor's transparent display. You are becoming what your species was always meant to be, Keeper Matthias said. The armor is connecting you to the Precursor Knowledge Network. Every piece of technology we ever created, every scientific discovery, every tactical strategy, it is all available to you now. Jake could feel the truth of those words. Information flowed through his mind like a river. He knew how to pilot ships. He had never seen how to use weapons that did not exist in his time, how to fight enemies that most humans had never imagined. The other humans, Jake said, as he sensed something strange happening far away. I can feel them changing. Yes, the Keeper said. The armor creates a psychic link between all humans who carry the precursor genetic markers. As you awaken to your heritage, so do they. Across the galaxy, humans are beginning to manifest abilities they never knew they possessed. Dr. Carter was staring at Jake with amazement. The armor had changed him completely. He stood taller, moved with perfect grace, and his eyes now glowed with a soft blue light that matched the crystal structures around them. Jake, you look incredible, she said. How do you feel? Different, Jake said, testing the armor's movement systems. Stronger, faster, but also connected to something bigger than myself. Keeper Matthias led them deeper into the archive, to a section that housed precursor spacecraft. The ships were works of art, sleek and beautiful, with hulls that seemed to bend light around them. This is the Retribution, the Keeper said, gesturing toward a ship that was larger than the others. It was designed specifically for combat missions. Its weapons can disable entire fleets without destroying them, and its defenses can withstand anything the current galactic powers can throw at it. Jake walked up to the ship and placed his armored hand on its hull. Instantly he felt a connection form between himself and the vessel. He could sense its systems, its capabilities, its eagerness to fly again after sleeping for so long. The ship responds to you because you are wearing the Guardian armor, Keeper Matthias explained. Only a Guardian can pilot precursor vessels. Dr. Carter was examining the ship's design with her scientific scanner. The metal, the energy readings, everything about this ship is beyond our current technology by thousands of years. Dr. Carter, I need you to stay here and study the archives, Jake said, his voice now carrying a tone of command that had not been there before. Learn everything you can about precursor technology. When I get back with Emma, humanity is going to need that knowledge. When you get back? Dr. Carter asked. Jake, you are talking about attacking a heavily defended space station with alien technology we do not understand. Jake looked at her through the armor's visor. I understand it now. The knowledge is in my head, Dr. Carter. I know exactly what the Vakari are capable of, and I know how to stop them. As Jake prepared to leave, Keeper Matthias shared one final piece of information. Jake, you should know that your daughter is not just a prisoner. She is manifesting abilities even without the armor. The Vakari are keeping her sedated because they are afraid of what she might do. Jake felt anger burn through him. They are drugging my daughter? Yes, but the drugs are not completely effective. Emma's genetic markers are very strong. She has been using her natural abilities to communicate with other prisoners and even to access some of the station's computer systems. Jake climbed into the Retribution, and the ship came alive around him. The control systems were unlike anything he had ever seen, but somehow he knew exactly how to use them. The armor was feeding him information about every button, every display. Every weapon system daubed as the ship lifted off from the crystal world. Jake felt something happening in his mind. He could sense other humans across the galaxy, and they were changing. On distant worlds, humans who had never shown any special abilities were suddenly able to interface with alien technology. Others were developing enhanced reflexes or mental capabilities that defied explanation. But most importantly, Jake could sense Emma. She was far away, but the connection was there. She was alive, and she was fighting back in her own way, the Retribution. Moved through space faster than any ship Jake had ever piloted. It did not use traditional hyperspace drives. Instead, it seemed to slip between dimensions, covering vast distances in minutes rather than days. As he traveled toward Terminus Station, Jake received messages from human colonies throughout the galaxy. The reports were all similar. Humans everywhere were suddenly manifesting new abilities. Some could repair complex machines just by touching them. Others could predict danger before it happened. A few were even showing signs of telepathic communication. On the colony world of New Denver, a young human engineer named Kevin Walsh had somehow repaired an alien power core that had been broken for years. He had no training with alien technology, but his hands had moved automatically, knowing exactly what to do. On the mining station at Proxima 7, a security guard named Rachel Stone had single-handedly fought off a group of alien pirates. She moved faster than humanly possible and seemed to know where her enemies would attack before they did. And on Earth itself, scientists at the Global Research Center were reporting that humans all over the planet were showing increased intelligence and problem-solving abilities. Jake realized that by putting on the Guardian armor, he had not just changed himself. He had awakened something in the entire human species. Meanwhile, Emma Morrison sat in her cell aboard the Vakari flagship, fighting against the drugs they kept pumping into her system. The chemicals made her thoughts fuzzy, but they could not completely stop the changes happening in her mind. She had already hacked into the ship's communication system 3 times, sending messages to other prisoners throughout the fleet. There were hundreds of beings from dozens of different species, all captured by the Vakari for the slave markets, but Emma had also discovered something else. The Vakari were not just random raiders. They were working for someone much more powerful. A galactic government called the Hegemony that wanted to control all the intelligent species in the galaxy. The Hegemony had heard about the strange new species called humans, and they wanted to study them. Emma was not just being sold as a slave. She was being delivered to Hegemony scientists who planned to experiment on her. Another message from the human girl, one of the Vakari guards said to his partner. How does she keep accessing our systems? War Commander Thex says it does not matter, the other guard replied. Once we reach Terminus Station, she will be the Hegemony's problem. But Emma could hear them talking, and she was learning more about their plans with every conversation. The drugs made her sleepy, but they also seemed to be enhancing her hearing and her ability to understand alien languages. She could sense that something was happening to humans across the galaxy. Other prisoners had told her about strange reports coming from human colonies. People were changing, developing new abilities, becoming something more than they had been before, and Emma could feel it too. Every hour that passed, she became more aware of the technology around her. She could sense the ship's computer systems, like they were extensions of her own mind. The Vakari weapons and defenses were no longer mysterious alien devices. She could understand how they worked, and more importantly, how to disable them. War Commander Thex visited Emma's cell once each day to check on his valuable prisoner. During his latest visit, he noticed that her eyes seemed brighter and more alert despite the sedatives. Interesting, Thex said, studying Emma through the energy barrier that kept her imprisoned. The drugs should be keeping you unconscious, but you seem more aware each day. Emma looked up at the reptilian alien with defiance in her eyes. My father is coming for me. And when he gets here, you are going to be sorry you ever heard of humans. Thex laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the corridor. Your father is one human with a damaged cargo ship. I command a fleet of warships with weapons that can destroy planets. What could he possibly do to me? Emma smiled, and for a moment Thex felt a chill run down his scaly spine. There was something in the human girl's expression that reminded him of dangerous predators from his homeworld. You will find out soon enough, Emma said quietly, far away. Jake Morrison was learning the truth of his daughter's words. The Retribution was approaching Terminus Station, and its sensors were showing him the massive defenses that protected the slave market. Dozens of warships, energy shields, weapon platforms that could destroy any normal vessel, but Jake was no longer piloting a normal vessel, and he was no longer a normal human. The Guardian armor had made him something new, something the galaxy had not seen for thousands of years. The Vakari had made the mistake of taking his daughter. Now they were about to learn why the precursors had chosen humans to inherit their legacy. Jake Morrison was coming, and he was bringing the awakened power of humanity with him. Jake Morrison stared at Terminus Station through the Retribution's main screen and felt his breath catch. The space station was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. Hundreds of ships surrounded it like a swarm of metal insects, and powerful energy shields glowed around the entire structure. Scanning the station now, Jake said to himself, using the Guardian armor's advanced sensors. The information flowed into his mind instantly. 3 million beings lived and worked on Terminus Station. Most of them were slaves, prisoners, or people who had nowhere else to go. The armor showed him exactly where Emma was being held. She was in the high-security section, heavily guarded and surrounded by Vakari soldiers. But Jake also sensed something else. Emma was not just sitting in her cell waiting to be rescued. She was actively fighting back. "That is my girl," Jake whispered with pride. As the Retribution approached the station, Jake activated a communication system that could reach every human in the galaxy. The Guardian armor amplified his voice and sent it through the precursor network to every person who carried the awakened genetic markers. "This is Jake Morrison speaking to all humans everywhere," he said. "For too long, we have been the new species in the galaxy. We have been weak, scattered, and afraid, but that ends today. Today, we take our place as the protectors of the innocent and the enemies of those who would enslave others." Across the galaxy, humans stopped what they were doing and listened. On colony worlds, space stations, and Earth itself, people felt something stirring in their minds. The message was not just words. It carried with it a feeling of power and purpose that awakened abilities they never knew they possessed. On New Denver, Kevin Walsh looked at his hands and realized he could feel the electronic systems in every building around him. On Proxima 7, Rachel Stone discovered she could move faster than any human should be able to move. On Earth, Dr. Amanda Ross found that she could understand alien languages she had never studied before. Jake switched his communication to the Vakari fleet surrounding Terminus Station. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Retribution. I am here for my daughter, Emma Morrison. Release her now, and I will allow you to surrender peacefully." War Commander Thex's face appeared on the communication screen, his yellow eyes glowing with anger. "You dare to threaten me, human? I command a fleet of 50 warships. You are one small vessel. I am giving you one chance, Thex," Jake said. "Calmly, return my daughter and release all your prisoners. If you refuse, I will take them by force." Thex laughed, but there was something in the human's voice that made him nervous. The ship on his sensors was unlike anything he had ever seen, and the energy readings coming from it were impossible. "You are insane," Thex said. "All ships, open fire on the human vessel. Destroy it completely." The Vakari fleet unleashed everything they had. Energy beams, plasma cannons, and missile swarms filled space around the Retribution. But Jake was ready for them. The Guardian armor connected him directly to the ship's defensive systems, and he moved the vessel through the attack like it was a deadly dance. The Retribution twisted and spun through space, avoiding most of the weapon's fire. The few shots that did hit were absorbed by energy shields that were far more advanced than anything the Vakari possessed. "Impossible," Thex muttered, watching his fleet's attack fail completely. Jake smiled inside his armor. "My turn." The Retribution's weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in thousands of years. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy ships, they sent out energy pulses that shut down every electronic system they touched. One by one, the Vakari warships went dark and began drifting helplessly through space. "What is happening?" Thex screamed at his crew. "How is one ship defeating our entire fleet?" But Jake was not finished. He flew the Retribution directly at Terminus Station's energy shields, and the ancient ship passed through them like they were not even there. The station's defensive weapons tried to target him, but the armor let him anticipate every attack and avoid them easily. Jake landed the Retribution in the station's main docking bay, and the moment he stepped outside, alarms began screaming throughout the entire structure. Hundreds of guards rushed toward the docking bay, carrying weapons designed to stop the most dangerous criminals in the galaxy, but they had never faced a Guardian before. Jake moved through the corridor like a force of nature. The Guardian armor made him faster than the guards could track and stronger than their weapons could stop. He did not kill them, but he made sure they could not follow him or hurt anyone else. As he fought his way toward the high-security section, Jake felt something amazing happening. The other prisoners throughout the station were rising up in rebellion. Emma had somehow used the station's communication system to coordinate with captives from dozens of different species. "Dad?" Emma's voice came through the armor's communication system. "Is that really you?" "I am here, sweetheart," Jake said, blasting through a security door with the armor's energy weapons. "Are you hurt?" "No, but Dad, there are hundreds of prisoners here. We cannot just save me and leave them." Jake smiled. Even in the middle of a rescue mission, Emma was thinking about helping others. She was definitely her mother's daughter. "We are saving everyone," Jake said. "Can you get to the main computer core?" "Already on my way," Emma replied. "I figured out how to hack their security systems. The drugs they gave me just made me understand their technology better." While Emma worked on freeing the other prisoners, Jake continued fighting his way through the station. The Guardian armor showed him exactly where to go and what to do. He disabled security systems, opened locked doors, and cleared paths for the escaping captives, but his real target was War Commander Vex, who was waiting for him in the station's command center with his best soldiers. "So the human father comes to save his offspring," Vex said when Jake entered the room. "You have caused me a great deal of trouble, Jake Morrison." "You took my daughter," Jake said simply. "You made it personal." Vex was wearing his own battle armor, advanced Vakari technology that had never been defeated in combat. He was larger than Jake, stronger, and had decades more fighting experience, but Jake had something Vex did not understand. He had the awakened power of humanity flowing through him, and he was fighting for the most important thing in his life. The battle between Jake and Vex was fierce and brutal. Vex was a skilled warrior, but the Guardian armor made Jake faster and more agile than any human had ever been. More importantly, the armor let him anticipate Vex's attacks before the alien commander could make them. The fight moved throughout the command center, destroying equipment and sending Vakari soldiers scrambling for cover. Vex's armor could match the Guardian armor's strength, but it could not match Jake's determination. "You cannot defeat me, human," Vex snarled as they grappled in the center of the room. "I have conquered 100 worlds." "But you never fought a father trying to save his daughter," Jake replied, landing a punch that sent Vex crashing through a wall. When the fight was over, Vex lay unconscious on the floor of his own command center. Jake stood over him, breathing hard but victorious. "Dad!" Emma's voice came from the doorway. She ran toward him, and Jake caught her in a hug that lifted her off the ground. "Are you okay?" Jake asked, looking his daughter over carefully. "Did they hurt you?" "I am fine, Dad. Better than fine, actually. Something is happening to me. I can understand things I never understood before. I can feel technology like it is alive." Jake nodded. "It is happening to humans everywhere. We are becoming what we were always meant to be." Together, Jake and Emma coordinated the liberation of Terminus Station. Thousands of prisoners from dozens of species were freed from their cells. The station's slave markets were shut down permanently, and the Vakari fleet was left drifting helplessly in space, but most importantly, Jake had his daughter back. As they prepared to leave Terminus Station, Emma looked at her father in his Guardian armor and smiled. "Dad, I think our lives are about to get a lot more interesting." Jake laughed and put his arm around his daughter. "As long as we face it together, we can handle anything." The Retribution left Terminus Station behind and headed back toward the Crystal World where Dr. Carter was waiting. But both Jake and Emma knew that this was not the end of their story. It was just the beginning. Humanity had awakened to its true potential, and the galaxy would never be the same again.